All right, can you all see the screen, the PowerPoint presentation? Yes, okay. Yeah. A few nods, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all here. And I'm hoping everybody's doing well. My name is Chai Tao. I'm the program manager of the air monitoring program here at the district. And Brad Dawson is going to also help me out in this presentation, is the supervisor that's overseeing the community air monitoring program. Okay, seems like it's not. Hold on, I have some technical difficulty here. Let me see if I can. It's like it's changing, but my slides are not changing.
You had to change it at first, but then it just flickered back to the main page.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
maybe it's just advancing slowly, Chai, but I see it when you advance it, like they pop up.
Yeah, I see that it's advancing. You know what? Let me do it again. Okay.
Pretty like a really bad delay.
Yeah, it looks like it's
There we are. Oh,
advancing, but not advancing on my presentation. Like in my notes here, it's not advancing along with it. So maybe I'll do that, and then I was just testing this out earlier with Brad, and it seems like it was working. So I guess that's Murphy's law, right? Like when you least expect it, that's when it's not going to work. All right, maybe I'll just jump through this, and then we'll just transition through it, manually transition through it. So today we'll be going over the implementation status, how much we have implemented and how much we have left to do. We'll go over the data that we've collected so far from these monitors and discuss what we're seeing, what we've learned so far, and we'll go over the next steps. And then after we complete all of that, we will open it up for questions and comments. And so beginning this presentation, Brad will start this off by providing an update on the network, the equipment that we're using, and the implementation status so far.
so good evening again. My name is Brad Dawson. I am the supervising air quality instrument specialist overseeing a lot of the implementation for AB 617. That includes this South Central Fresno community, as well as Shafter, Stockton, Arvin, and some other monitoring projects that are going on in the Central Valley. So I have been here since the beginning when we had no monitors, and I'm proud to be here today reporting back to you where we are and what we have seen. Jumping into this slide specifically, this was the just a reminder of the committee together to create the design of this monitoring network consisting of PM 2.5 monitors, compact air monitoring equipment, trailers, as well as monitoring vans. Sorry, next slide. There we are. And here we have a picture of our PM 2.5 monitor that's located on the roof at Roosevelt High School, as well to the right is a picture of the insides of the compact air monitoring system that is currently located at West Fresno Middle School. And in that picture, you can kind of see that each shelf is a different monitor. So we have measuring pollutants such as PM 2.5, black carbon, BTEX, NO2, ozone, and SO2, all in that one unit. And here we have that the same unit, but all on its trailer that is installed at West Fresno Middle School. And as well to the right of that picture is our big air monitoring trailer that is located at Malaga Elementary School. And we'll kind of dive into all the things that are going on at all those sites later on. And last, this is a picture of one of our air monitoring vans that we are able to deploy out to areas where a stationary air monitor was not possible. And we've gone to several different places, and some places recommended by the steering committee to do some day monitoring at as well. And sorry, my screen has been a little bit slow. Sorry, Chai. The district has continued to conduct localized air monitoring in the South Central Fresno community. We are still continuing to deploy air monitoring platforms in this community. We are still awaiting one site, that's Edison High School. I was actually there this morning talking with staff and district personnel on siting and locations, and I think we're finalizing a site this week, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward in the upcoming weeks at that site so we can be fully deployed. And our van is currently being actively used to monitor pollutants of interest recommended by the steering committee, as well as sites that we haven't been able to fully develop yet, such as Edison. And we have been performing extensive PM 2.5 and VOC speciation sampling, sending that off for laboratory analysis since since late 2019. And this is a current map of where all of our stationary sites are at in relationship to our mobile monitoring as well. All of the red points, the numbered red points, are where our stationary monitoring is located at, and all the green letters are where we have been taking the van to. To get to this point, I just have to say, has been an incredible achievement from you, the steering committee members, the countless hours that you have thought about where to place these at, attending steering committees and subcommittees like this, discussing your own personal experiences in the community where you think air monitoring would be served. You were able to come and give us the building blocks and the direction of where to proceed with putting all this out. Like I said earlier, we started with no monitors, and we are at this point where we can actually display a map like this of all the monitoring that we have done and have taken place. It has not been without its faults. I think every one of these points has a story and hiccups along with it, but we are very proud, and I think everyone here on the community side should be very proud of where we are at today. And with that, I'm going to move it back to John.
All right, thanks, Brad. And just to highlight a little bit here on this chart here, on this picture here, so the green is representative of the places where we've used a van to monitor at. And these also include locations that over the months the steering committee had expressed some concerns over. So we have gone to those specific locations and did some monitoring those, and also reported back to the committee on that as well. And so the first one that we're starting off with as far as pollutants is PM 2.5. And it's basically particulate matter that's 2.5 microns or less in diameter. And so if you look at this picture here, this is a picture of a human hair that's about 50 microns. And so if you look at the PM10, there's like 10 pieces of that in the blue here, 10 spheres on that. So the PM 2.5 is even smaller than that. And this picture just gives you a sense of just how small 2.5 is. And again, since it's so small like that, it can easily get lodged into the lungs and cause a lot of health issues like cardiovascular conditions. And so looking at the left here, you can see how it's formed. It's either formed from, for example, like from NOx emissions and ammonia. You mix that together and that can form ammonium nitrate, or the mixing of SOx and ammonia, and that's creating ammonium sulfate. Or it could also be directly emitted as from dust or smoke. And in the valley, we typically see high concentrations of PM 2.5 during the stagnant cold winter days. So So in this chart, we graphed all the community monitors along with the air monitors at Fresno Garland and also at Clovis. And just to kind of get an idea of how close these track together and what the trends are like. And what we're seeing here is that these are the trends. They are trending fairly consistent with each other. As you can see, all the number of air monitors for PM2.5, we have 9 here, and they're all basically overlapping each other from July 2019 to May of 2021. That's almost 2 years of data there. And as we see, the largest spikes occurring between August and October, as many of you recall, were from the wildfire smoke impacts. And so, I think that graph gives us a pretty good idea of as far as how they track each other. But what we also wanted to find out is if there are really any differences between these locations. For example, are there any locations that has a tendency to have higher PM2.5 concentrations than others? And so what we did here is that we took the quarterly average of the 24-hour average and then kind of just put them in a table and to do some comparison. As we can, so far as we can see, you see like lower concentrations at Heaton Elementary here between all of these. And then you compare it to like a higher concentration location like Fresno Foundry here. So we're starting to see a little bit of the trend, but I think we still need more data to really get a better understanding. But this is giving us some initial ideas. Now this kind of makes sense, because Fresno Foundry is right next to Highway 99, so it's getting a lot of.
Where is that monitor?
Fresno Foundry or Heaton Elementary?
Fresno Foundry.
Fresno Foundry is right along Highway 99. Let me move it up here, and you can kind of see here on this map. So right here is Fresno Foundry. This number 7.
Okay. But do you know is 99 on which other street? That's the one that I was just trying to get a sense of where it is.
Oh, like the exact location onto this street here. It's actually a Foundry. Foundry is the other street. So
It's really close to Jensen and 99.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We call it Foundry because that's actually the street that it's based off of. But
Yeah.
yes.
But again, we still really need more data. As you can see here, like West Fresno Middle School just started here in the 4th quarter of 2020. So
But why are you saying that Fresno Foundry, for instance, Malaga is higher than even the Fresno Foundry when compared to at least on quarter 3 of 2020?
Yeah, and that's why I say that I think we still need a little bit more data for a longer period to get a better idea of the trend of the emissions on this area. So as you can see here, like Malaga is 30.2 on the 3rd quarter of 2020, but then we hit to like the 1st quarter of 2021, and Malaga is 14.5, and Foundry is at 17. So I think these are just some preliminary numbers for us to get some ideas, but we still need more data. And in addition to that, I think there's going to be the other potential impact of the COVID-19 restrictions. So we have here, before COVID, and then with COVID restrictions here, and then I think right now we're slowly, businesses are slowly and operations are slowly opening up, and hopefully we return to a status quo soon here. And I think once we get that, we'll get better data and more data to really get a better understanding of these trends and these emissions at these various locations. But I think it's a really good start of what we have right now.
Hey, Chai, I wanted to mention too, just looking at the data from 3rd quarter 2020, 4th quarter 2020, a lot of that time period was heavily influenced by wildfire smoke as well. So it definitely was not a typical period that we would see across the valley for air quality. So those wildfire emissions affected different areas. And of course, the city of Fresno was heavily impacted by that during the period. And so looking at the comparison between these sites during this period, it's definitely influenced by other sources out there as well. So hopefully the year 2021 will be a little more normal, and we're able to get a good comparison of these sites across the community.
Yeah, that's a really great point, John. Thanks for bringing that up. Uh-oh. Let's see. My slides are freezing here a little bit. Let me see. Okay. All right, so nitrogen dioxide is another pollutant that we monitor for, and it's basically one of the group of highly reactive gases known as NOx. And typically, you'll hear NOx a bit more often. And one of the issues with NOx is that it contributes to the formation of PM2.5 and ozone. And it's primarily from burning of fuel, including, as you see here, from cars and trucks, and buses, off-road equipment, and power plants. And high concentrations of NO2 can irritate airways and human respiratory system, in addition to the formation of PM2.5 and ozone and all the other related health effects from those pollutants. Apologize for that. My computer is freezing up a little bit here. So as you can see here, we have NO2 monitors at these 4 locations: the Fresno Drummond Air Monitoring Site, Fresno Foundry Park Air Monitoring Site, and also at West Fresno Middle School and Malaga Elementary School. One thing that we can see here is, I mean, they do track along with each other in terms of the trends, but it is a bit higher again at Fresno Foundry, and that's again because of being right next to Highway 99 and all the emissions, the exhaust emissions from the vehicles. But the next one here is sulfur dioxide, and sources include wildfires, power plants, locomotives, and other heavy-duty equipment like this tractor that you see down here that burn fuel with a high sulfur content. And impacts, health effects include harming the human respiratory system, and also it can lead to, as discussed earlier, the formation of ammonium sulfate, and that can again PM2.5 and its associated health effects as well. So the SO2 concentrations, we're currently monitoring it at West Fresno Middle School and also at Malaga Elementary School. What we're seeing here is we're seeing one of the main things that we're trying to figure out is we're seeing these big spikes, but they just occur once in a while. And so what we've done is now we're putting triggers onto our system so that whenever we get any type of spikes like that, it will inform us immediately by email and also through text messaging. And then we also have the cameras now on at Malaga, kind of a 360 view to take a look and see if we can find what's potentially causing this. And in addition to that, we'll be sending inspectors to take a look at it on site to figure out where this is coming from and what is causing it. So moving forward, we'll take a look and see where this is when the next spike comes up to see what is really causing this. And just to get just a reference of these, for example, like this spike here occurred on November 3rd on a Tuesday, and it's just a 3-minute spike, and then it dropped back down again. And this other one occurred on February 1st, which is on a Monday, and it's like 3:36 in the morning, and that's like a 3-minute spike, and then it drops back down. So these hopefully with the triggers that we have and the camera in place, we'll be able to catch these a little bit better and get a better idea of what is causing it. Another pollutant that we're monitoring is ozone, which many of you may already be familiar with. And that's basically the way that it's formed is from NOx and VOC, and then you combine that with bake it with heat and sunlight, and you get ozone. And as you can see by this picture here, You get NOx and VOCs from like trains, from trucks and cars, and industry itself, and all of that mixed with heat and sunlight. That's what causes ozone. And in the valley, ozone is typically highest during the hot, stagnant summer afternoons. And a concern for ozone is because it can cause lung tissue inflammation and aggravate lung diseases like asthma and bronchitis. So we have ozone monitors, again, at the Fresno Drummond Air Monitoring Site, at Malaga Elementary School, and also at West Fresno Middle School. And these are tracking fairly consistent with each other as well. Very similar to the PM2.5 trends that we've seen earlier. And one thing to keep in mind with ozone is typically known as a regional pollutant, meaning there shouldn't be a huge variation among these various locations. And then we're also monitoring for BTEX, which is also known as benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylenes, these four volatile organic compounds. And these are primarily from like vehicle exhaust, gasoline, and industrial emissions, and even like tobacco smoke. And there's a variety of health effects that they include throat and eye irritation, dizziness, headaches, and it's also been determined that high concentrations of benzene is also carcinogenic, where it can cause cancer. And so at Malaga, we have a real-time monitoring system over there for all four of these. And as you can see here, looking at the averages here, it's basically zero if you look at the annual average concentration, except for xylene at 0.2 parts per billion. It's a little bit higher if we look at 1 hour peak average. And so that's basically selecting from June 2020 to May of 2021. If we look at the highest 1 hour average, these are the ones that we detect here. And over here is the OEHA reference exposure level. OEHA is the California State Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessment. And these reference exposure level, they have two types, actually probably three types, but the two that we're really looking at here is there's an annual average and then there's a 1 hour average. So the annual average is what they call the chronic, and it's more looking at a more long-term effect. So for example, when it says, when we have a value of 1 parts per billion, that's saying that, you know, if they think that at that threshold is if someone were to be exposed to that, to benzene at a concentration of 1 parts per billion for an entire year, that's the level that you do not want to go above. Otherwise, there are health impacts. And then for the 1 hour average, that's what they call in the acute reference exposure level. That's the concentration level that that you do not want to go over. Otherwise, within an hour, hourly exposure to it. So that's why it's typically higher, because you're looking at that that short-term impact. And so as you look at all of these, you'll see that, you know, from the annual average, it's well below. The lowest one here is benzene. You know, it's just 1 ppb, so the threshold itself is already pretty low, and even then we're below that. But if we look at the 1 hour peak average concentration here, the threshold is 8.5. So even at the 1 ppb that we detected here, just for the 1 hour, for that 1 hour average that we found, the highest one at 1, we're still well below these concentration levels. And then as you see, all these other ones they're at much higher concentration levels, these thresholds. And as you may have heard, I mean, benzene is really one of the pollutants that's a bit.
I was going to ask. According to OEHA, there's no safe level for that. So I don't know what you're referring to as 8.5 ppb being standard, or
Well, these are what they call the reference exposure levels, the RELs, and these are even being used for health risk assessments when we do permitting and that. So there are levels on these.
What would you think are the sources of benzene near Malaga?
Yeah, so you know, like I had mentioned above here, the sources include like motor vehicles, gasoline, industrial sources, and considering that this is right next to the parking lot, and considering that how low these values are, I mean, potentially these could be just from vehicles there. And so in addition to all those monitors, we also have in addition to real-time stationary monitors, we also have the van monitoring at various locations. And so we're getting intermittent data as we park these vans at these various locations for a few hours and grabbing these data. And so what we did was we got all this data together, and we got the average hourly values, and we also got the peak values and try to get a comparison and see what those readings are, and comparing it to also some of the applicable standards that's out there. And so with the van, we didn't detect in terms of the BTEX, we did not. There were not any detectable levels of benzene, ethyl benzene, or xylene during this period, and this is from January 2020 to currently right now. And toluene is still fairly low on the average hourly, but if we look at the peak value on that, we detected a 9.6 ppb on that. And if it's for toluene, again, these are the OEA REL levels, still well below those levels there. If we look at PM2.5, we did detect some pretty high levels of PM2.5, and at the 1 hour average there. And again, this was during the wildfire smoke impacts that we had experienced in between August to October of 2020. And then for ozone, what we measured at the 8 hour average still below the applicable standard here. Same thing for CO, NO2, and SO2. And again, just wanted to just to remind that again, these are with the vans, we're at various locations at various times, and so these are really just little snapshots at various times. And so in addition to these type of monitoring, the real-time monitoring, we also, as Brad mentioned earlier, we also did speciation to get a better understanding of where are these what are these potential sources that might be contributing to the PM2.5 or to the VOC. So I'll have Brad's going to give you a bit more detail on this in the next slide.
Thanks, John. So back in June 2020 is when we were able to deploy the trailer at Malaga Elementary School. And with the deployment of that trailer went some PM2.5 and VOC speciation sampling equipment. So speaking about PM2.5 first, we have a couple of pictures of the equipment right there. It's considered, it's called the Super SAS. So speciated monitoring based off of filtration is how it operates. And we set this up. We go out once a week and do maintenance, gathering on this unit and sending those filters that has one full 24 hours per filter sent off to a third-party laboratory that then does multiple different analyses on it and then sends us back those results. The speciation results really help determine which sources may be contributing to the overall PM2.5 pollution. So our PM2.5 monitor gives us the total of particulates in the air at that 1 hour. This is a one full day sampling of trying to make up what consisted of the particulate matter in that day that we sampled. And this is just, to better our overall understanding of the emissions and potential health impacts in the Malaga and the South Central Fresno area. So some of the components based off of PM 2.5 are ammonium nitrates. They are formed from a reaction between ammonia and nitric acids, where nitric acids are formed from nitrogen oxides. Usually key sources for this of nitrogen oxides is of burning of fuels. Going into ammonium sulfates, again, they form a reaction between ammonia and sulfuric acid, where sulfuric acid is primarily formed from sulfur oxides. Again, it's similar from, it's very sulfur, and key source of this is burning of fuels. Again, high sulfurous fuels, especially in the past, we used to have acid rain, kind of getting into that same category of sulfurs. Organic carbons are generated as primary organic aerosols, predominantly through combustions of fuels. Again, key sources include cooking, different industrial processes, mobile source exhausts, tire wear even, and wood burning. And then continuing going down the components of PM 2.5 is black carbon, known as soot or elemental carbon. It is formed during the incomplete combustion of fuels, including mobile exhaust, mainly diesel particulates, smoke, and wood burning as well. It's that incomplete combustion is really where you get that dark, sooty black carbon. Soil, again, road dust. Soil dust is entrained in the air from different activities, such as soil disturbances. Agricultural is a huge, when they're tilling up the land or so. And then also airflow from different traffics along different state routes or roadways. And then other metals. Particulates having been emitted in concentration with in connection to combustion from engine wear, brake wear, or other processes can entrain metals into that spectrum of PM 2.5 that we see. Sometimes they're a main compound in fire. I know magnesium, I think, burns white. So there's a lot of chemistry involved with fireworks that comes into the metals compound and particulate matter. Now, going into the next slide, we're going to kind of dive into some of that speciation, where you can actually see the huge wildfire that contributed to a lot of the organic carbons that you're going to start seeing in August all the way through October of 2020. You can really see the really big events, those big peaks. Majority of that is of that organic carbon buildup. And then also, when we get back into the winter months, we start seeing the ammonium nitrate occurring during the winter times, which is expected due to atmospheric chemistry. And moving on to VOCs. So before we talked about PM 2.5, that's the particulates, that's the heavy stuff. Now we're going to be talking about gases. And we, in parallel with the PM 2.5 speciation, we run these canisters off of a timer system. So we're grabbing in 1 full day's worth of air into a canister at Malaga in conjunction with that PM 2.5 speciation that we just talked about. We send all of our samples to another third-party laboratory, different than the first one, and they test it for about 86 different VOC compounds, toxic organics, actually. The method is TO15, it's toxic organics method 15, if anyone's really that interested into it. But it does measure out a lot of different toxic organic compounds. And with performing those samples, I believe twice a week since June, we have seen primarily acetaldehyde, methanol, ethanol, and acetone are prevalent every single time that we do a sample. So in looking at those compounds, only acetaldehyde and methanol have associated REL values as Chai mentioned before, those are the reference exposure levels set by OEHA. And we'll kind of get into those individual compounds in the next slide. Oh, nope, sorry, I misspoke. Let's talk about those compounds. Methanol, those are sources that include solvents, like cleaning products. Goes also into
Oh, I
Alright,
think
looks
Brad
like-
might have
I-
frozen.
I cannot hear him.
Oh, okay, let's see, is he back?
I think Brad.
I'm
Or I can
Getting
continue on.
oh,
if
yes.
Brad is. Oh, okay, are you back? Okay, all right. All right, we'll see how stable it is. If it's not, I can continue on. Go ahead, Brad.
sorry, I just got a notification. How much did I miss?
Most of it, methanol.
Okay, I'll start from the beginning. Talking about methanols, source includes, I think I just died. Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah. No, I
Oh.
can.
I'm getting connection disconnections on the VPN. I apologize on my side. But methanol sources include automotive exhausts, solvents like household products, biological decomp, waste, sewage, and going into those health impacts can include blurred vision, headaches, dizziness, and nausea. Acetaldehydes, on the other hand, can come from wood combustion, fireplaces, wood stoves, vehicle exhausts as well, and tobacco smoke, and waste processing. Different processes can contribute to aldehyde. This can cause an irritant to the eyes, skin, and respiratory tract, and higher exposure levels can cause arrhythmia and pulmonary edema and necrosis. So on that brighter note, we can go on to the next slide where we kind of break down into the concentrations that we're actually. So here is a chart comparing the methanol concentration we have seen detected along with the OEHA REL value for methanol. That value is 3,000 parts per billion on an average, on an annual average is how it has been documented. So we are, on a daily basis, we are significantly lower than there. But we can see some peaks, which lead us down a rabbit hole to try to figure out what other contributing factors could have been associated with those peaks. So we have a peak right here. I believe that was on February 2nd. And we're diving down through all the speciated data to try to really see if there's any other contributing factors and kind of seeing what else is there possible outside of just a little higher than normal methanol average, but still significantly lower than the REL value.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, and keep in mind that when we're looking here, we're looking at the annual average, and what we're actually seeing here is a 24-hour average. And so we're actually comparing an annual average to a 24-hour average. So this is like an ultra conservative view of it. For methanol, there is no acute value or OEHA REL value for it, so we can't compare it to the more closer to the daily average. But typically, you have your annual average is usually a lot lower because it's assuming that you're exposed to that continually for at least 1 year, and so we're comparing it to this one. So just to clarify, because of that, even though this is halfway through there, it's actually even more conservative than that.
And then moving to acetaldehyde, again, the OEHA REL value for that is a lot lower than the methanol at 3,000. This is at 80 parts per billion on annual average. And again, you can kind of see that we are seeing a trend of continuous values and a couple of peaks in there that, again, we go back and look at and try to see if there's any other contributing factors that might add to that, any significant events or anything like that.
All right, so that's pretty much all the data that we got so far. And you know, we have from the real-time community monitors, we see that the pollutants concentrations are tracking consistently with each other, and consistently also with the nearby regulatory monitors outside of the community. And we still need additional data. We still need ongoing data to capture the full understanding and including full understanding of some of the spikes, what's causing those, and also the variation among those locations. So I think with more data, we'll be able to get a better understanding of all of that. And then from the PM2.5 speciation, the spikes in the organic carbon from wildfire impacts in the summer and fall time period there, and from August to October there in 2020, we see that that's consistent with what we would expect with the increase in organic carbon from the smoke impacts, and also the increase in ammonium nitrate that's contributing to the winter season as expected. As far as VOC speciation, the species detected were well below the OEA reference exposure levels, but but we still definitely need more data and also need further investigation to really get a better understanding of the potential sources, even though they're still at levels below these reference exposure levels. We still need to do more work to get a better understanding of where these sources are coming from. Overall, just more data is what we'll need to really capture all the seasonal changes and also account for impacts from COVID-19. And I think, as John mentioned earlier, I think hopefully in 2021, when we'll get more normal conditions, and we'll be able to get all of the data that's representative of that, and get a better understanding of the sources that may be contributing to these concentration levels, and also to get a better understanding of this overall in these various locations.
Hey, Chai,
emissions.
this is Ed. I had a quick question.
Sure.
Memorial Day weekend coming up and the COVID restrictions being eased in many places, do you expect to see a spike this weekend coming up?
No, that's a really good question, Ed. I think, looking back at some of the data that we have, for example, like even the PM2.5 and even the NO2, and again, this without actually it happening and seeing it again to see if it's really what's causing it. We can see, for example, like just the NO2 itself, right? You can see it seems to be a little bit higher from this time period, from July to November, as it ramps up. And we have here July to November, it ramps up again. But this is in the 2020 timeframe where we have the COVID restrictions, right? And here we didn't have COVID restrictions. So we see a little bit of it as, it looks like there's less and it's a bit more without COVID restrictions. But again, these are just like 2 points here. We'll have to wait and see what the impacts are really going to be like.
Thank you, Chai.
Oh shoot, I'm sorry. You guys did not see that chart, did you? I was showing it in my I apologize. I was looking at my other slides and it was showing it there. But let me go back here. Just realized that it wasn't showing it to you, Ed, when I was explaining. Okay, everybody see this chart now? The NO2. So just looking at here, see in 2019 pre-COVID, just see its typical ramp up from from July to November here. We have something very similar there from July to November here too. But overall, it does look like it's a slightly less compared to my post and pre-COVID. So that gives us a little bit of an idea, but I think we'll really need to see when everything opens back up again and see what type of readings we get. And in addition to that, like John had mentioned earlier too, we had these extreme wildfire events occurring too. So there's a lot of other things that may be impacting these levels that we're seeing.
Hi, before you go to the next slide, I think I saw Estela's hand up at some point.
Okay.
So I just want to ask her. Estela, todavía tenía una pregunta. Vi que levantó la mano. Okay, maybe she didn't have a question. Okay, we can go ahead and proceed and then. Oh, wait.
Nomás iba a decir que pues ahorita también como también no han estado no hay muchos carros porque también han parado porque no han estado yendo muchos niños a la escuela. Y eso ha disminuido también. A lo mejor va a cambiar también el nivel de contaminación ya cuando todos vayan.
Okay. Okay, Estela's comment was just that, with due to the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, we have noticed that there's a decrease in vehicles, especially since kids are still at home. So we may see that increase once the kids do start going back to school in the fall. So she just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's what we were saying too. It looks like it's a bit higher. If you look at the pre-COVID and then during COVID, it seems like it was slightly lower. So yeah, definitely a really good observation.
And most of our monitors are based at schools. And since schools have been closed, we haven't had a lot of the buses and the children drop-offs and other things. So we may be looking at some interesting data as things open up, especially I believe next year or next school season.
August.
Well, that is true for the monitors, where mostly the impact is all the maybe school buses or things like that. But in Malaga, for example, I mean, I would be more concerned about all the other stuff going on around that school rather than really the school buses. I mean, you have so many warehouses and all that didn't stop.
Oh, absolutely not. No. I wasn't trying to say that, oh, if we have anything different, it's going to be because of the children. Absolutely not. I was just saying that it's going to be interesting to start seeing some of the data when things become back to normal.
All right, and so our next step here is we're going to continue with our current air monitoring efforts with the stationary sites, the speciation analysis, all the air monitoring vans, and responding to community needs and concerns with the vans on that. And we're going to continue working with Fresno Unified to get that last location implemented. And I think we gained a bit more traction today that we've actually went and identified a potential site with this at Edison High School. So I'm hopeful that we would be able to get that out fairly soon. And in addition, we've established triggers, especially at Malaga Elementary, to get so that we can respond quicker to some of these spikes, so that we can get that and we can deploy staff to determine potential causes. And we can also use our surveillance systems to see if there's potential causes for those as well. And also review the data to ensure that, for one, to make sure that it's not because of potential equipment error or anything like that also. So that's something that we're working on and continuing to do to make sure that we can get a better understanding of some of these spikes here. And let's see. And as far as the AB 617 website, we do have that website, as many of you already know. We have real-time community air monitoring data there. We have the raw text data for Malaga. We have air monitoring van data. We have the quarterly report sets out. In fact, the the fourth quarter for 2020, that quarterly report is out and available on the website. So you have some time, you can take a look at that as well. And then we're continuing to also do the weekly air monitoring updates, and that's also posted onto the website, so that you can look at it from a week-to-week basis. And it's really nice that it's not just the current week, but you can go to archive, and it's all in chronological order, so you can go back in there and kind of look at the progress and look at the emissions at those certain time periods as well. So it's a good resource if you're interested in looking at that data. And CARB's AQView website is also located on this link here, and our data is getting transferred to there. And I think currently the PM25 is there, and I think CARB is working on to get the rest of the other data there, so that you can also download the raw data from that website. And in addition to that, I also wanted to mention that currently we have real-time PM2.5 and ozone, and we are adding all the other pollutants, providing real-time of all the other pollutants on there as well. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks here, we'll be able to get that out, and we'll let the steering committee know as well. And that's all the information that we have, and we'd be happy to answer any further questions or comments or suggestions that you may have.
I have a question / comment. So thank you for reminding us that all this information is available in your website. My only concern is that who do you think really goes out and seeks proactively for this information? I think that we need to be spreading the information, feeding the information to the people who need the information. And that includes parents, of course, but that includes even the school districts. I know that you guys have your Healthy Schools program. How is this information incorporated into that to share with the schools? Because it makes sense that, let's say I'm the principal in Roosevelt. It's better that I know what's the reading in the monitor that is in my own school than receive the alert from the one that is in the central part of Fresno. So I think that there's still a lot of disconnection between the regulatory monitors that you have and that are used for the RAN alerts and all that. And we have been asking for, almost since the beginning of the process, that this information is linked to RAN, and that if that's going to take more time, that there's a mechanism to give out this information, at least to the schools where these monitors are located, and to the parents of the children who attend those schools at the very minimum.
No, those are really good points. I mean, as far as the integrating this with RAN, and as we stated, it's a little bit more complicated, and we definitely agree with that, and we're still continually working to find a way to appropriately integrate the two together, and so that's still definitely in the works, and that's something that's an objective or a goal that we are ultimately wanting to get to. So that's something that we're doing. As far as providing the data, it's definitely challenging, and definitely we're going to require continue to look for ways to disseminate this data, because no, I agree, it's challenging, because even like the quarterly reports, right? There's a lot of data in there, but I don't know if a lot of people would want to go and dig in and try to absorb all of that data. It's just, even as simple as we try to get it to be, and it's so difficult. And that's why from that we transitioned to why don't we provide weekly reports, right? Just a one-pager weekly report. And so we went to that as the next stage and provided that too. But again, I don't know if parents and teachers want to be receiving that via email, because it's already available on our website. Maybe just informing them that it's there, And then,
But I hear you, but I think that, you know, for example, the way that I see this information being helpful to the educators, but also, as I said, to the parents, and Sterling is a parent that could correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, I have a son with asthma. I want to know if the school is not going to pay attention to what is the air quality for allowing him to do recess, to, you know, to run track or do any exercise outside. I want them to use the best available data to inform those decisions. And I want that real time. I don't want that as a summer. I want to know that when the activities are happening.
yeah.
So that's why I was asking, how is this information going to be, if anytime, feed into the schools?
Yeah, and so that goes back to integrating that right into RAN, and we completely agree with that aspect of it. And so we're still working diligently to try to get that up and running. So, and I think that is it. I mean, that is the one that's going to be helpful and useful for parents, for schools, because you know, no one really has time to go and check the website every single day, every single minute. You want to be notified when there's something that you should be aware of. And so I think that goes back to RAN, and we're working on that.
Yeah, just to your point too, I mean, like, I hear you. In the meantime, while we're working on that, we could think about what can we do to get schools more plugged in, to understand where this data is, where they can go to view it. They may not be interested in looking at these quarterly reports, but they need to know where they can go on our website to view what's happening day by day. Before they have an activity going on, they can check the chart, see what's going on with air quality at that school or at a school near where they are, to help them see what's happening and make decisions. So that's something we can talk about with our outreach team to see how we can get schools better plugged into this data and where they can access it. Looks like Ed, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Naimeen makes a very, very good point that this is important to get this information out. One of the things I appreciated about this presentation is it gave potential sources for some of these sampling that we're seeing. And I think that for the majority of the community, it would be really valuable to talk about, you know, a NOx or any one of these pollutants in the terms of what is the potential source of that. And you did that for the most part in this presentation, and it was a very good presentation. I appreciate the information, but it would probably help others to understand what's going on as we move forward. That's just a comment.
Thank you, Ed. Looks like Vernon, you have your hand up?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing okay. Yeah, just wanted to chime in since you mentioned it. Thanks, Chai, for the shout out to the AQView system. I know our AQView team is also similar discussion of what's happening right now in terms of trying to better understand how community members might want to use the system. I know that's something I don't believe there's anybody online right now from our AQView team, but that is something we can engage the group on at your pleasure as well. Yeah, separate meeting with the district. Just throwing that out there. I know the team is really thinking through that as the data is being loaded into AQView. Again, trying to better understand how we can serve your needs better. So just throwing that out there. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Vernon. Megan?
Yeah, Jay, I just had a question on the SO2, having gone back to the posted slides. It says hourly average, and you're saying it's a 3-minute spike that is affecting that hourly average that much?
Yeah, so let's see, let me get to that site again. Okay.
But then when you listed your max hours, you only had 19.6 hourly average for the max. So I was a little confused.
Okay, so which max are you talking about? So, okay, so these spikes here, These are the hourly values at 120. If we were to look at it, there is, I think it was close to like 1,000 for like 3 minutes, or 2 or 3 minutes, and then it dropped back down really quickly. So that's why the average is around 100 and I think was it like 130 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, so it was a huge spike.
Yeah, it was a huge spike, and that's the one thing that we that's why we're putting a trigger into there. And here at Malaga, we'll have some surveillance onto it so that once it spikes, we can then take a quick look and see what's causing that, and then also send a compliance staff or someone to go and take a look at it.
Yeah, that would be good to figure out what's doing that. But then when you did the table that did the max value, it wasn't anywhere close to that. It's not
you mean
showing
this-
any of these.
Are you talking to the maybe you're so this is at the trailer at Malaga Elementary, this SO2 here.
Mm-hmm.
So the table here is for the van.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
That's the problem. Yeah, I know it can be a little bit confusing since there's so much data that we're running through.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Hi,
All right.
just wanted to do a quick time check. So we're already over 6 o'clock, but just want to see if there's any last minute questions for Chai and then wrap it up.
All right. I think that's it. All right, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, and I really appreciate all your input, and I think that's really going to be helpful for us as we move forward with this, whether if it's getting notifications or how we present data to make it more useful for the community and all of that. So thanks again, and we'll see you all in the next meeting. All right, see ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, thank you.